We're okay, and Luke, I'm your mom. Okay, here we go. We're ready to go. Hey, good morning, everybody. Gosh, good to see you. Happy 2026. It's very fun. I haven't seen you in a year. Yeah, whatever. I know, yeah. It is. It's sweet. My name's Steve Osborne, part of the team here, Seacoast, that gets to serve under Ryan's lead, and just super grateful to be worshiping with you this morning and launching into the next few weeks of kind of, okay, we flipped the calendar and, wait a second. How many of you, I shouldn't even ask this, but how many of you don't really know what I just said right there? Flip the calendar. Most of you probably do or whatever, but some of you, you're just shaking your head or whatever. Flipping the calendar used to mean that when you had paper, you flipped a page and the next month came in there too. And all you, I know Dale's just giving me the attitude right down around. I don't know what you're talking about right there. Yes, but we flipped the calendar and kind of into a new year, and we're done with the chaos, right, that has happened over the last long time, and it's been a blast, as Ryan just mentioned, and many of us are kind of we're in a completely new mode, and we figured we would capitalize on that kind of natural reset. As we gather here in 2026 and begin in January, and I was looking for some ways to kind of think about this whole reset thing. I've got a couple different ways here, but one of them is kind of in the ones and zeros world, if you will, right here. This is a definition from the Merriam-Webster dictionary of reset that didn't exist a little while ago, right? To turn a piece of electronic equipment off and then on again when it does not work correctly to make it start working correctly again. Is that not amazing that is a dictionary definition now of reset? That exists, right? Because pick a number, right? But X amount of years ago, this would probably not have been a thing, right? And so I brought actually something that helps me kind of get into the spirit of that very, very much. It's my iPad, and if you want to, oh gosh, I have a notification from my Scripps Health app right here. Isn't that great? Yeah, something. Oh, okay, good. I have an earlier appointment time. Hang on, I'm just going to respond to this, Gary. I'll be right with you. But in my iPad right here, as you can see, I have a keyboard right here. And this iPad is very different and treated very differently, by the way, than Ryan's. You may, if you've ever been kind of up here at Seacoast and you've seen Ryan operating kind of his whole thing through his iPad, you will notice that Ryan's is an uncased iPad. And that if you will ever notice, if he kind of does a flip a little bit here, you will notice quite a few cracks in the screen, right? Ryan has it right here, yes. And you will notice that in the lack of a case back, that there are some dents and some marks, because there are times at staff meeting where Ryan has to use this as a Frisbee projectile to get someone's attention. And so this happens periodically at staff meeting. It just kind of is what it is. It kind of comes with the territory. Mine is protected. I don't really know what kind of insecurity that says about me, but I have a case on mine. I have a keyboard, okay? Now, here's what regularly happens with this keyboard. It's part of this. The keyboard will just stop working. It's no longer connected. And you're like, what is the deal? So, guess what has to happen? I have to find, by the way, some of you are not going to believe what I'm about to say. This has an on and off button. Some of you are like, no, it doesn't. It's like, no, really, you can turn it off. No, you can't. I don't believe that you can actually turn it, but it does. It has an on and off button, so you have to turn it off. You have to press it and hold it and swipe it so that it shuts down, wait for it to reboot. How come? Well, even the brilliant people at Apple, they haven't devised something yet that can't stay unclogged from too much. That's the layman's definition of what's going on here. That this gets cluttered, and it gets crowded, and it gets chaotic, and it gets dysfunctional. And it has to be reset. And something magic happens in the resetting process where it works magically again. And every time I reset it, the keyboard starts working again. And in the same kind of way, right, we get cluttered and crowded and chaotic, and it's just time to reset. Whether it's like what Ryan was talking about, where it's the house. Well, we're going to reset the house. I got to get all this. I love Christmas. It's time for Christmas to be over. But in all of those different kinds of ways, we kind of get clouded, we get crowded, and we get cluttered, and we get chaotic, and we have to take some time to kind of reset some things. So that's what we're going to do this January. We're going to spend some time in a reset mode. And it's not just a mode, really, but we're going to be talking about what it looks like to reset in our relationship with God and with his people. So we're going to launch that today. We're going to talk about this kind of at a 30,000 foot level, if you will. And then for the next few weeks, we're going to talk about some specific things, some more specific ways that we reset in our relationship with God. But I thought I would anchor our time this morning. I'm going to put this down, or I'm going to projectile it or whatever too and hit somebody. But I thought for this morning that we would look at we would begin our time together by looking at some places where we reset connection with what it is that God has done for us in the Christmas story. That we would kind of draw a line through the incredible things that have happened because Jesus has come to us and for us and is with us, so that we reset and re-engage in relationship with him. And for many of us, the verses we're going to look at in a second have really taken on a real deep profundity because we've been studying them over the course of some things that we've been doing in the summer and summer nights led by the Molnars and the Lightners. But here's the verses in Matthew chapter 11. This is an invitation from Jesus, Jesus' own words right here. And Jesus says this in Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 to 30. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." How good does that sound right after Christmas, by the way? Yeah. "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So that, typical of Jesus, super dense, there's a lot in there. But for our purposes this morning as we talk about resetting, there are a couple different places I want to draw our attention to as we think about resetting in relationship with Jesus, and particularly what it is that the Christmas story helps us understand about him. So here's the first aspect. I just want to look at verse 28 for a second. Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." The invitation from Jesus is this warm invitation into walking with him and relating to him in our real life. That there's something about the human condition, right, where all of us have experienced our own version of, that, weary and burdened, or heavy laden, or weighty, or I got a big backpack, or there's just a lot, or I'm exhausted, or I can't get over the hump. There's just so many different versions of this. One of the things that people tell us, for example, is that when we get to those places where a vacation doesn't replenish us, it's time to admit that we're exhausted and we need something else outside of it. It's just one of those places, right? There's a soul fatigue that's just hard to put into words sometimes. And some of us have experienced that. And so Jesus says, all you who are weary and burdened, I will give you rest. See, what the Christmas story helps us, invites us into in this warm invitation, is that Jesus understands what it's like to be us. He knows exactly what it's like to be us. And so dripping from all of this invitation right here is this profound compassion and care. Where he looks us in the eye and he says, I get it. I get it. I see you. I see what you carry. I see the backpack. I see the weight. I see the struggle. I see the middle of the night. I I see the worry. I see the anxiety. I see the paralysis. I see the concern. I see the concern of other people, not just for, I see it. I see the weight of what it means to be human, what it means to be you. And I care. And it's not just that I care. He does. I can help you. Right? I will give you rest. That I can come alongside you and walk with you in such a way, in this warm invitation, that I will help you carry this. That's what he closes with, right? That my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And so this warm invitation comes from him. He gets us. He understands what it's like. And then there's a second aspect that I want to draw our attention to, and it's right in the middle of that. It's kind of that third line here, because this is Jesus' description of himself. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. And then here's his description of himself. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. He said that twice, right? But I'm gentle and humble in heart. One of them, just the mind blowers to me, of Jesus' description of himself, by extension, his description of God the Father and God the Son and God the Spirit, is that they are gentle and humble. Now, it's not everything to know about who God is, but it is terribly significant to know that that's who God is. Because it is so profoundly inviting. So when you and I are in the presence of someone who's gentle and humble, truly so. And it happens, there are people out there, it's wonderful to be in their presence. C.S. Lewis famously said that humility, true humility, biblical humility is not thinking less of yourself, I'm a worm, I'm a this, et cetera, et cetera. It's thinking of yourself less often. And so those people that are able to think of themselves less often are giving people, right? They are winsome people, they're loving people, they are present people. They sit across from us, and so somehow in the course of some dialogue or some interaction or some conversation with them, they're able to be present with us, to ask questions, to listen, to reflect, to be with, to pray. There's a whole bunch of different things. And Jesus says, I'm that. I'm that. Dane Ortland in his book, Gentle and Lowly, says that Jesus was the most approachable person who's ever lived. And you see it over and over and over again in the people that Jesus interacted with. He got in trouble because he hung out with people that were the wrong people. But somehow the wrong people were profoundly attracted to him. Why? Well, probably some of this. That he was able to be with them. He was able to connect with them. He was able to care and extend compassion to them. He was gentle and humble in heart. And what happens in those kinds of moments when we're in the presence of a person, or particularly with Jesus like this, is all of the defenses and the pretenses just melt, right? Because we're known. We're just known. And there's no playing around your backhand, and there's known. And in that knownness, we are accepted. He's there. He's with us. I'm gentle and humble in heart. So as we begin our reset conversation, we want to reset with, the Christmas message and who it is that is inviting us into this kind of relationship, that God came to us, and he came to us not in a set of propositions or principles in there. It's not mechanical. We'll talk about that in a second. He's a person. The writer of Hebrews talks about this, that God has spoken to us in these last days in his Son. That God speaks to us about what it means to be in relationship with him through the way that we see Jesus. And so as we reset and we kind of tee these things up and we say, okay, so what does it mean to reset with God? What does it mean to clear out the clutter? What does it mean to acknowledge and then kind of move out of the chaos and things? We want to embrace the fact that we connect with this one who is full of compassion, who's gentle and humble in heart, and who's able actually to give rest to the things that we carry and that burden us the most. It's the invitation that Jesus gives us warmly to people as he invites us into relationship with him. And so in being invited into relationship with him, there's a couple different things that I'm just kind of thinking about. I think about them in some way or another, kind of beginning of the year and as the year ends and kind of moving in. And it's not really quite the New Year's resolution as much as just kind of like, okay, time to reset the year. Like, what is 2026? What could it look like? Lord, what would I like to look like? And so these are questions that I'm asking actively with God and with other people. We'll develop them here as we kind of walk through this. And these are kind of give a little bit of an overarching aspect of what we're talking about with this reset. Here's the first question. How can I connect with God and his people regularly, not just randomly? How can I connect regularly and not just randomly? I have a tendency, I can see places where I can be kind of haphazard in a whole bunch of different things. And so I just want to ask the question, okay, God, what does it look like to connect with you and with your people in a regular, not just in a random kind of way? So Sunday morning gathering is a great place to be able to do that. God bless you for being here on the first Sunday of January, where a regular kind of aspect of connecting with God and with one another is huge, right? But this regular part for me is something that I just want to develop because I see that there are places where I'm much more, I'm much more random than I am regular. For those of you who have played golf with me, or I love playing golf, and one of the stories that I unfortunately have bored some people with on a golf course is a story from a Hall of Fame golfer named Hale Irwin. He's of an age or whatever. He's definitely in his 70s now, but he's a Hall of Fame golfer, both the PGA Tour and then the Champions Tour as well, for those of you who speak golf. And so he's that guy. And part of the rhythm of a professional golf and the PGA Tour and the Champions Tour is that you play in a Pro-Am. And the way that the Pro-Am works is that it happens if the tournament starts Thursday through Sunday, you play the Pro-Am on Tuesday, and people pay a lot of money to play with pros. That's basically what the Pro-Am is. So it's a fundraiser, and it's a whole bunch of different things like that. And so it's a regular diet for these touring pros. And so Hale Irwin tells the story of playing in one of those tournaments with a guy who I want to be careful here because we're in church. He was a guy who, after every shot, used words that we don't say in church. Are you kind of with me on this? Yeah. He used the words that, they're golf words, they're bowling words, they're the words you use when you hit your thumb with a hammer. They're those kinds of words, right? Like after every shot, etc. He was that guy. So after X amount of holes in this Pro-Am, remember, everybody paid a lot of money to play with the pro. This guy, every shot, etc. So Hale Irwin finally said, "Hey." The guy kind of did this. Now Hale Irwin played defensive back at the University of Colorado, so he had a little bit of a football attitude on the golf course. So he says, "Hey, how often do you play golf?" And the guy's now taking, it's a Pro-Am, right? He paid to do this. He says, "Why? I play at my club, on Saturdays, like once a week." He says, "You don't play enough golf to be this mad about golf. You don't play enough. You don't. I play golf every day. Every day. I hit balls, I play every day. You don't play enough golf to be this mad about golf. So enough of this. Let's just play. got it. Guy straightened up, apparently flew right for the rest of the round. But I've thought about that 100 times because, well, I don't play enough golf to be mad. Now, some of you who have played golf, you know that golf is an infuriating game, is it not? Yes. And as Jim Rome, kind of the famous sportscaster guy, often says, golf, to play it at the highest levels, involves probably some form of witchcraft. Because there's no way that people can do what they do. If you've ever tried to hit a golf ball, it's stationary for crying out loud, right? And yet, here we are. It goes all over the... Yeah. But Hale Irwin's point is, you don't play regularly enough to expect to improve. Now, I've thought about that a lot. In a lot of dimensions of my life. Where it's like, okay, it is my engagement in such a way that I can actually meaningfully expect to improve. When it comes to golf, absolutely not. So I got to check my attitude at the door because I just don't play enough. But if I said to you, hey, listen, I'm really committed this year, I'm going to work out once a month. And you would probably say, well, good luck with that. Yeah, you're probably not going to see a whole heck of a lot. Or I did that with diet. Or I did that with any other kind of thing that I was trying to learn. You'd say it's probably not regular enough to make a difference. And so when we talk about being regular and regular engagement and not just random, part of the reason is because there's so much of regular life where you have to engage at a certain level in order to see growth. Amen? It's just kind of the way that we are. And it's true of our bodies, it's true of our heart, it's true of our relationship with God. It's just kind of an axiom. So here's kind of my little mantra, if you will, that when I think about, okay, so as I engage, I think about regular, et cetera, my deal is a little bit a lot of days. You can ask Debbie, we've talked about this 1,000 times. She's heard me say that 1,000 times. I don't always do it really well, but I think about it regularly, a little bit, a lot of days. I can get grandiose, I can have big goals and dreams, I can say I really want to do this. But in reality, if I was a high school athlete and I wanted to improve my 40 time by 1/10 of a second, it would be a little bit a lot of days. There would be a whole bunch of different things. If I wanted to become a better golfer, it'd be a little bit a lot of days. If I wanted to lose some weight, it'd be a little bit a lot of days. If I wanted to, it'd be a little bit a lot of days. And so as we engage and we kind of reset, we want to invite one another into that regularly, not just randomly connecting with God and his people, and then make adjustments that involve a lot of days. Now, many of you do this really, really, really well. But we want to embrace the fact that this is kind of the way that lives and hearts and bodies work. It's a little bit a lot of days. And there is a second principle here that we want to develop here. So we think about reset. So the first question is, how do I connect with God regularly, not just randomly? And how can I connect with God is the second question. And as people relationally, not just mechanically. Okay, what does that mean? Relationally, not just mechanically. It's dawned on me, I'm slow. I don't know how else to say that or whatever. Things kind of take a while for me. And one of the things that has dawned on me over a lot of years, Debbie and I this spring celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary. Isn't that fun? Yeah, it's gonna be great. Tom Carr said, oh, thank you very much. Tom Carr said he's going to pay for a week in Hawaii. It's going to be awesome. So there are things you kind of learn and relearn and reset, and right. I wish that it was a one and done, but there's something about relationships that is not mechanical, right? Well, what do I mean by that? My tendency at times is to treat my relationship with God as a checklist. as a to-do list. Not just because, okay, well, God, I'm going to check you off and then kind of go about my day independently, but rather the way I relate to him is a mechanical process. Well, what are you talking about here? Well, I'm going to check off reading the Bible, and then I'm going to check off praying, or I'm going to check off being in a home group, or I'm a life group. I'm going to check these things off. But it's not really the way that relationships actually work, is it? The way that they actually work is that those are mechanisms, right, to engage in relationship. So I don't just read the Bible, for example. I read the Bible to be in relationship with God, to have a conversation. I don't just pray by presenting God, well, here's my checklist, and so you're God, you should do something about all these things, for crying out loud. It's a mess out there. Do you know this, Lord? And yeah, these people are driving me crazy, whatever, right? It's not just that I just rather those things are about relationship. They're about conversation. So the Bible is about conversation, and prayer is about conversation. And being with God's people in His presence and all the different ways that we gather is about conversation. And those places shape us. So the question that most husbands are terrified of is asking their wife, how is our relationship doing? Right? Because what many husbands, I really don't. I should ask my wife this, whatever. I don't think I know any women who think of their relationship with their husband mechanically. I checked off these boxes. But I know all kinds of men who will say something like, well, how's your relationship doing? And then they give me the checklist. I do this, right? How's your relationship doing? Well, we had a date night 4 months ago. That was great. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah. Let me think about this, and I'm pretty sure I got her what she wanted for Christmas. Check, right? Where am I getting it? It doesn't work that way, right? It just doesn't work that way. And in the same way, our relationship with God. These things that God has given to us, being in the Bible, His Word, and prayer, and being with His people, are ways to create conversation with Him and with His people. So the question I'm asking myself is, God, how do I connect with you and your people relationally, not just mechanically? Now, that is going to matter as we begin to look at these ways that God has given us to relate to Him, to be able to create conversation, interaction, and engagement with Him and with one another. All of this is designed to foster this relational dynamic in which we come to the one who is compassionate and caring, who's gentle and who's humble in heart. Because over and over and over again, and you can see that we've got the communion tables set up here, over and over and over again, we are invited to remember how good the good news is. We are invited to live in it, to re-engage with it, to listen to it, and to have it wash over us as we reset and re-engage in relationship with God. Sometimes I'm tempted to think that I should be one and done. I should be able to reset and go. But my iPad and my keyboard with my iPad constantly tell me, no, it's just simply not the way that things work. That regularly things get clogged, they get chaotic, they get full of clutter in there, and they have to be reset. So I've got just a lengthy little devotional thought from Paul David Tripp here. It was in a Christmas devotional that Debbie got for our family, and I just loved it. This is the way he is closing out his last entry on December 31st. He says, every day of your life, you preach some kind of gospel or good news to yourself. My prayer is that the good news of the gospel that is preached to you through every element of the Christmas story will be the gospel that you preach to yourself as you face the opportunities, responsibilities, temptations, danger, struggles, and blessing of your life as a child of God in this broken world. Now, let's just leave that up there for a second. Good news, some form of good news, is what gets us through every day. When there is no good news, despair and disillusionment quickly set in, and darkness falls quickly. So we're constantly looking for good news. And some of the good newses are not that deep, and some of them are anchored to what it is. And so Paul Tripp is simply saying, my prayer is that the deepest kind of good news, the most lasting kind of good news, will be the one that you preach to yourself on a regular basis. Now think with me just for a second here about my iPad, okay? Think about his line right there about the opportunities, responsibilities, temptations, dangers, struggles, and blessings. Every one of those is like a weather system unto itself of confusion and chaos, right? Think about the opportunities you have. You may have a job opportunity that you want to think about and chase, and there's a lot that goes into the decision-making process of that, right? Okay, so that's a lot. And responsibilities. You may be a spouse, you may be a parent, you may be a grandparent, et cetera, and there's a lot to that. There are temptations that are out there. It's like, oh, okay, here we are, all kinds of dangers, struggles, blessings, all of those kinds of things, right? And all of them, as they come together, cloud and clutter and create chaos. And what resets? The good news, right? So every day, the good news. Every day, the good news. Every month, we celebrate the good news at the Lord's table. Every week, we gather to celebrate the good news. Every day, we can celebrate the good news as we listen to it and receive it over and over and over again. So we're going to celebrate it here in just a minute. I'm going to invite the worship team. They're going to come and lead us in singing, and we're going to celebrate it here at the Lord's table. But this is a good prayer for all of us, to be able to pray with and for one another, isn't it? That in the circumstances of life, what needs to be reset over and over and over again, as regularly as we need it, is the good news of every element of the Christmas story. That Jesus invites us warmly into this relationship, and where he gets us, and he is compassionate and he's caring. He knows exactly what it's like to be human. And he is so profoundly humble that he's able to be with us and present and fully engaged and loving and look us in the eye and say, I get it, and I will walk with you, and I can give you rest in that. So we're going to celebrate the Lord's table here. Jesus, in an interesting kind of way, as he set this meal up for his people, and for us by extension, he says, I want you to do all of this in remembrance of me. In remembrance of who I am, and in remembrance of what I have done to be in relationship with you. Of course, he said that just right before the cross and the resurrection. And so as we remember that Jesus' love for us is not just a heartfelt affection for us, but that it are also translated into actions of love and giving himself to us and for us. So as we go to the table here, we're going to remember what it is he's done. And we're going to reset around that staggering good news. And we're going to let it be preached to all of the stuff and the circumstances so that the chaos and the confusion and the clutter gets reset and we embrace the fullness of reality of what it means to be in him. Pray with me, please, and then we're going to go to the tables together. And so, Father, we come to you in the name of Jesus, in the name of the one who gave himself, in the name of the one who came, in the name of the one who is the radiance of your glory and the exact representation of your nature and upholds all things by the word of your power. We come in his name. We do not come in our name. And so we come to the one who is gentle and humble in heart on our behalf. And we receive and remember this grace that you've extended to us. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for loving us the whole way. It's in your name we pray. Amen. We're going to invite you to go to the tables. If you are new to us, we're going to invite you to take a little cracker and a cup, return to your seat, and just enjoy a moment with Jesus and reset and remember what it is that he has done for us as we remember his goodness toward us, the good news. Go ahead.